Congressman Hoyer, good morning.
Good morning, Chuck.
Let me start with what we're going to see on the floor today. Speaker Boehner's backup plan. What is wrong with it today?
We have a serious fiscal problem confronting the country. We need to be real. We need to have a balanced program. $1 million is not a balanced program. Everybody knows that. The math.
Well, I don't think they're saying it's balanced, but this is as a backup plan. What's wrong with it as a backup plan?
Chuck, I don't think it's the backup plan. The backup plan was the plan B, which is what you're talking about, the $1 million. But also, the Republicans were going to put forward the $250,000, that could be voted on by the House as well. Right. Clearly, the Republicans know that what they're doing today is simply a waste of time. This is not. This is the lamest of Congresses. As a matter of fact, it's a broken Congress. It's a Congress that refuses to compromise. It's a Congress, frankly, that won't follow its leadership. John Boehner had a plan. Speaker Boehner had a plan. That was on Monday. Everybody was talking about that plan. We were planning to vote on that today. He could not get the votes. In order to be an effective leader, you've got to have followers. Unfortunately, the Speaker doesn't have followers. So what we're doing today is wasting time, pretending, making political points, but not moving the ball forward to get to a compromise that will be necessary if we're going to avoid the sequester that nobody wants, right, not go over the cliff, and take very positive steps towards getting this country on a fiscally sound path.
You're a big vote counter. Does he have the votes now for what he has done? You know, with all of the changes he's made, has that given him now the votes, do you think?
My presumption is that's why he's made the changes, because the most radical members of his caucus would not go for anything less. And he's got all of his interest groups still demanding that they shouldn't even pass the $1 million plan. So that, unfortunately, Speaker Boehner, who I think wants to lead, I think he wants to get to a compromise, but his members won't back him up. And I think that's sad for America. It's sad for the Congress, and it's not the ball forward, and we've been wasting time. Frankly, these last 4 weeks have been the least productive weeks that I've spent in the Congress over the last 31 years. It's a shame for the country, and it's a shame, I think, for I personally believe, as you know, Chuck, that Speaker Boehner wants to lead. Speaker Boehner wants to get to a compromise that can be supported by a majority of the House, and that will require Democrats and Republicans, because we know there are a lot of Republicans who won't back it, and there's some Democrats who won't back it.
Speaking of Democrats,
we could get there, I think, Chuck, if the Speaker were willing to move ahead on a plan that could get 120 or 30 of his members and 100 of ours.
Okay, speaking of Democrats, how many Democrats are going to vote for Speaker Boehner's plan today? You got them all lined up, all right, but that not many means not zero. How many? I mean, you don't. It is not unanimous among the Democratic caucus.
You know, we were unanimous on a number of these votes. We'll see, but not many.
Many, is that less than 5 is what you're trying to say? Is it the usual 5? Is that what it is? Is it the usual sort of 4 or 5 you're worried
Chuck,
about?
I'm saying what I said. I'm not going to you know, count on TV.
Fair enough. Now, let me ask you about the president's counter proposal. You know, one of the things that I think we all thought we were going to see more counters, and it was clear the president was willing to do a couple of things. Move up the threshold on tax rates. He's up to 400. Sounds like he's at least willing to go to 500 if you read between the lines yesterday. And then, of course, the changes in how you would calculate Social Security payments. How many Democrats do you think you would lose on a plan like that?
Look, Chuck, both Leader Pelosi and I have said we're going to work to pass a plan to avoid the sequester, put ourselves on a fiscally sustainable path if the president puts forward a plan that he can get agreement with Speaker Boehner on. We've said we're going to work to get that passed.
You can get will you get a majority of Democrats, House Democrats, support whatever President Obama agrees to?
Well, I don't want to say whatever President Obama agrees to, but my presumption is, and I think Leader Pelosi's presumption is the same, that the president will not get to a deal that is not acceptable to a majority of us on the Democratic side in the House. It won't be the deal that we would like, perhaps. It won't have everything. It'll have some things in there we won't like. It'll have some things in there the Republicans won't like. But if we're going to be a functional Congress, if we're going to serve the American people well, we're going to have to come to grips with compromises to get to where we need to be. And it's clear that Speaker Boehner, at this point in time, does not have the votes in his conference to do that, and that's a shame. This is, I call it a Plan F. This is today. This is failure.
Very quickly,
it's a shame for the American people.
Very quickly on guns.
Yes.
Do you think an assault weapons ban could actually pass the Congress in the Republican-controlled House in 2013?
I would certainly hope so. I'm for that. I think the overwhelming majority of American people don't see any necessity to protect themselves to have an assault weapon or large capacity magazines.
You think that's doable? You think that's doable?
I think it is doable. I hope it's doable. I think that I'm co-sponsoring, as you know, legislation toward that end.
Yeah.
And I'm hopeful because I think that's what the American people think is a reasonable step to take. It's not a perfect step. It won't get us to where we need to be to decrease the violence and decrease the risk to our children that we have seen so dramatically and tragically recently and over the years. But it is certainly a rational, reasonable, common sense step to take.
Steny Hoyer, House Democratic Whip, Maryland Democrat. Thanks for coming on this morning.
Thanks, Chuck.